Express. Right now? Yeah. Welcome to the On the Pony Express. I'm Jonathan McGill. I'm here, and this is the show where we break down everything from pregame to postgame to everything in between. Celebration in the locker room. Rhett Lashley will be joining us for an interview, postgame interview as well. So the Mustangs get a much-needed win. They're 1-0 now in ACC play, putting them right at the top of the ranks of the ACC with a win 31-18 over Syracuse. My initial thoughts, I thought that SMU came out and played exceptionally well. We will now go to our intro, and then you will hear back from me. Now watch our intro.
When you clock in every day, there's always that chance that something can happen. You don't know when, where, or how, but accidents are inevitable. As a business owner, you don't want to be left holding the bag whether something happens to an employee or customer. General liability insurance covers everything from a slip or fall all the way down to a paper cut. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we will get you any necessary coverage that pertains to your field. So get covered under the sombrero by calling 855-88-75656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome back. Right now, we want to give a huge shout out to Northwest Insurance Agency, who is thrilled about this win, just as we are. So let's get into the game and let's break down the biggest keys. Big takeaway, I would say, for a defensive perspective and watching the Mustangs, they did bounce back. This was a game where they were going to be tested down the field. Syracuse has electric players. Jonte Cook finished with 7 catches for 82 yards with a long of 38. And he was targeted 12 times. And so I think the Mustangs stood up. If you notice, Deuce Harmon was playing in the slot a little bit more. If you notice, Kyron Chambers was the guy that was getting more playing time in the slot. And both of those guys, I felt like, had big games. For the Mustangs, TJ Harden led your rushes with 71 yards. Kevin Jennings had an exceptional game, 29 of 35, 285 yards, 4 touchdowns. Only 1 sack, did have a interception, but bounced back and played an exceptionally well game. I think this was one of the better games Kevin has played this season. I think this was one of the most complimentary games you've seen from the Mustangs. The first half was electric. It was, explosive plays on offense, takeaways on defense, 4th down stops, all of the things that you wanted to see from the Mustangs you've seen. Fourth quarter, like we said before, this team likes to make it interesting for us. Ended up, having some miscues on offense, having some miscues on defense. But in games prior, the Baylor game, the TCU game, where the team ended up getting momentum. Syracuse didn't end up getting any momentum. The Mustangs had hankered down on defense, got some key stops. Ahmad Moses with a key interception to ice the game. Had an exceptional game from him. He finished with 9 tackles, was a leading tackler for SMU. Now switching to Syracuse, their quarterback, Ricky Collins, was 22 of 45, threw 279 yards, 1 interception, and got sacked 2 times. And so that's excellent to see. I know the sack club is extremely happy seeing Ricky Collins get sacked and our defense being able to affect the quarterback. And I feel like he was never comfortable all game. You kind of seeing him go from, one read to the other, pat the ball a couple of times, scramble around. I think Scott Simons did an exceptional job in calling this game. Syracuse was 6 of 16 on 3rd down, where last week, whereas TCU was 75%, or I think they were like 52%. And on 4th down, TCU was 75%. This week, Syracuse was only 2 of 5. And so, as I've said, as Billy said, as other people have said, this Mustangs defense was going to bounce back, and they did bounce back in a huge way today. SMU finishes 5 of 12 on 3rd down offensively, 1 of 2 on 4th down. And the big thing that I saw was SMU was 5 of 5 in the red zone, right? When you're 5 of 5 in the red zone, that's extremely hard to beat and extremely hard to lose games when you're so effective in those key moments, those 3rd downs, those red zones, coming away with points every time that you can. And I think SMU did an exceptional job with this. Romello Brinson was your leading receiver, 7 catches for 71 yards. I thought Jordan Hudson's touchdown was exceptional. It spoke to his character, spoke to the type of player he is, hard-nosed, hard worker, doesn't want anything easy, run through, breaks a tackle, runs through another tackle, gets into the end zone. And I want to give a huge shout-out to Marcellus Barnes, a guy that had a lot of playing time coming into this game. It was he also probably doesn't want to say it wasn't personal, but coming from somebody that played at a previous school, I know that it can get personal at times. He had an interception that was huge. Unfortunately, we had a safety after that, but he kind of killed some of that momentum in his play. Yamir Knight won punt return for 16 yards, and it almost seems like he's always one block away. He's always making exceptionally moves, catches the ball really well, and it's really just a jitterbug, somebody that can just bounce around. I would say that SMU's special teams, I would say, was a huge key factor in this game as well. Wade did an excellent job in his punts. Sam did an excellent job in his kicks. It didn't seem like Syracuse was able to get the ball past the 25. Ended up, seeing them fair catch a couple times. Kyron Chambers with a great tackle. Jay Holly with excellent run and excellent effort on special teams as well. And your leading kick returner obviously was Chris Johnson Jr., who had one kick return for 20 yards. But outside of that, I would say that Matthew Hibner, RJ Maryland, it almost kind of seemed like it was RJ Maryland kind of coming back into his own shades of what we've seen from last season. Him making contested catches, getting open, not looking like his previous injury was, in his mind. He was playing free. Matthew Hibner ended up breaking the rock in the locker room, and that's a guy that is very, very well respected, does everything the right way, shows up, blocks, catches, plays on special teams. Like, he does everything that you would want. And so it was great to see both of those tight ends have a great game. Excellent to see TJ Harden, excellent to see Jermico Green come into the game. The young freshman had, a couple of great runs. And so now want to give, before we transition to Rhett Lashley and his post-game interview, we want to give a huge shout out to our people at Status Jet. Book with Status Jet, mention the On the Pony Express if you have to help with your next trip. They do a great job in making sure everything is accommodated for. So now we will turn it over to Rhett Lashley and hear his post-game thoughts after beating Syracuse 31-18.
And it doesn't have to be pretty, but we finished. And we got a win. We got a double-digit win in conference. And, hey, we're 1-0, and got a chance now to go 2-0 next week. So it was good to have a celebrated locker room.
What work did you kind of observe the defense as a whole putting in during the last 2 weeks, and do you feel like that contributed to maybe a better outcome today?
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes it's just you may change some things. We moved Deuce to play nickel. Lamadric's out, and we've been kind of struggling with consistency there anyways, and that allowed us to put Amon Moses back in the deep free safety spot. I thought Deuce and Kyron Chambers did a really good job there, which kind of settled down the safety picture for us. And then, Marcellus and Smoke and Speedy doing a good job at corner. So I think we kind of fell into probably the best lineups for us, in terms of the 5 or 6 guys that play back there. They're not 100%. It's good getting Kilgore and Marker back. Helps our communication. But now those other linebackers have played a lot. So now all of a sudden we have depth at linebacker. And I thought the defensive line did a nice job. We didn't have to sell out pressure to get pressure all night. Not that we got it all the time. They threw it a ton, but we got some sacks. We got some pressures. We stopped the run for the most part. And so I just thought it was a good group effort of just taking pride over the last 2 weeks, saying, look, we're better than this. We played good defensive stretches in those losses, but we didn't play consistent enough. And I thought we did today. I thought we were much more consistent defensively. I don't think we went out and just, changed everything. We tweaked some things, but I think we just played better. We tackled really well in space. We got off the field better on third down, and just made more plays.
Today, only 2 penalties for 15 yards.
Thank you for highlighting that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. What happened over the bye week?
Nothing different. See, we coach against penalties all the time. We coach discipline all the time. So we didn't change anything, because if we'd have changed something, that would have just proven that we weren't doing it right to begin with. So, I think we did have guys, now we're 4 games in. We did play fundamentally better. We executed better, particularly in the first half on offense. So you didn't see a lot of the foolish penalties that we've had. Same thing on defense. We just challenged the guys, let's be done with the childish stuff. Like, for us to win this year, last year, next year, rule number 1 is make yourself hard to beat. And if you don't beat yourself with penalties and turnovers, then you make yourself harder to beat. We had 1 turnover and 2 penalties. They had 3 or 4 turnovers and 6 penalties. That right there is a big deal. And so I think our guys were focused, and then just played fundamentally more sound and had more poise. But we coached the same way in practice we always have. We just executed better.
Kevin at one point had 16 straight completions.
I just heard that. That's crazy.
Pretty good day for him overall. What did you think of his play, and was there any thought of maybe getting him out in the fourth quarter at some point, or did
Billy, I was just trying to win. I lost my voice trying to win. So,
I know. I just know he's been banged up too.
Yeah, the good news is he didn't get banged up today, I don't think. You could tell he was a lot healthier. Didn't have to run a lot, but man, he was efficient. And they're playing us the same way everybody else is. They're not going to give Romello and Jordan and RJ and those guys one-on-one chances to be explosive. So they're going to keep everything back. You saw us get the ball on the perimeter. I thought we blocked on the perimeter well. He was really efficient. A lot of those are run perimeter options, and he's making the read to hand it, throw it. So, we actually called more than 28 run plays. Probably 8 or 10 of our passes were off of run plays. And I thought he distributed the ball well, almost like a point guard. But then when we needed it, the shot to Jalen Cooper kind of got us going on the over route, play action. The shot to RJ, what a catch by RJ. And then the one right next play to Matt Hidner, was still able to push the ball down the field. But he just did a really nice job of not forcing things, taking what they gave him. And I think that's why he was so efficient. And, we were able to do that, at least in the pass game.
You got Dermot Odoms into the game today, and I know you haven't had a chance to look back and watch it yet, but what have you seen from him in the practice and in the weeks leading up to today that gave you and Coach Justice the confidence to put him in for an extended run?
Well, I'll be honest with you. So Draymond's going to be a great player. We love him, and he's been working hard. He's had a really good 2 weeks, but he also played out of necessity. Andrew Shingley had a baby. He wasn't even here. So Savion started at left tackle. Everybody's healthy, by the way. Everything went good. So now Savion practiced at right tackle all week to then play left tackle as of this morning. Then PJ gets hurt at halftime, can't go back. So Draymond has to play. So you're playing with Draymond, Savion, Shambley's not here, and PJ's out. PJ came back in late when it got a little tight. He made freshman mistakes, but he also played hard, and we won, and he got valuable experience. And I think, again, he came here, and we feel like he's going to be a special player, and days like today will help accelerate that growth for him. But he's had a good 2 weeks, and we trust our guys. We're going to recruit guys that are going to come here, and we're going to throw them in the game and let them play. They're not going to have to be perfect, but that's how they're going to get better. We believe in all of them.
You mentioned that sequence, RJ and Hibner looked like they were maybe a little more involved than they've been. Was there any effort to do that? And was that also maybe part of RJ being further along in that health?
They were both a little more healthy than they've been. Matt Hibner's been hobbling too. And so I think you could tell the bye week helped them both a lot. Kevin has a lot of faith in those guys. You saw late in the game, he had Hibner twice to, run some clock and get some first downs. Obviously, RJ wasn't exactly open when he threw that, but he made a great throw and RJ made a great catch. So those two guys are great. They're NFL players. They're as healthy as they've been this season. And so, yeah, that was why it was a lot easier to get them more involved, and we'll continue to try to do that every week.
The defense just being, it seemed like there were just more kind of around the ball and swarming a little bit more. Just what did you see from that effort from them?
That's SMU defense. when you swarm the football, it fixes a lot of issues. I did think we tackled a lot better, but we did. We swarmed. We played with great energy. They didn't let the drive, the situation dictate how hard they were playing. We rolled a lot of guys. That's it. We just challenged them. That's it. Let's swarm. Let's play SMU football. Let's get 11 white helmets with a Mustang on the side of it around that football every time. And I think for the most part we did that, and it covered up some issues when we weren't perfect, and then when we were.
And that is Rhett Lashley wrapping things up there. You can watch the full video with Rhett Lashley's postgame show at our YouTube channel on the Pony Express. We appreciate Jonathan McGill, of course, leading us off. I'm Billy Embody, Dean Ralsky here, as well as the Mustangs get that 31-18 win over Syracuse. And I want to go back to something that Rhett Lashley he alluded to when I asked him about Kevin. He was just trying to get a win today. There was no ifs, ands, or buts that this team needed it, and they get it. 31-18, 24-3 halftime lead. Things look to be in really good shape. 31-3. It just got interesting, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where you've just got to find a way. And SMU did that. And I encourage everybody to find their way to Mignon on Sunday, because with an SMU win, you get free dessert at Mignon, and that is Plano's premier dining establishment. Former SMU offensive lineman Nick Natura and his family have been running this restaurant for years and years and years, producing elite fine dining experience. And whether that's dinner 7 days a week or brunch on Sundays, make sure you hit up Mignon. And when you mention on the Pony Express on Sunday, you get free dessert with your meal. So whether that be brunch, make your reservation on Open Table for that, or whether you lock in an Open Table reservation for dinner at Mignon, they will hook it up with free dessert over there on Sunday because of this SMU win. And it feels good. SMU 1-0 in ACC play. It was a long bye week following that TCU game. Jonathan, what is that like, having to sit on a loss like that? You experienced that last year. BYU, tough game, very different experience, very different situation, but you have to chew on that for over a week, and then you come out and you get that win. How gratifying is that?
It's huge. It kind of almost gets a monkey off of your back in a sense, and get that bad taste out of your mouth. And I think that's something that was huge. Rhett Lashley, I don't know his exact record, but I know he has won a lot of games right after a bye week. Him, Scott Simons, Garen Justice, Coach Woods, they do a great job of having the players healthy and also sharpened. And so that's why you see that this was the least penalized I've seen SMU in a long time. Only, 2 penalties today, very clean game. Turned the ball over once, but, we got a lot of turnovers on defense, won the turnover battle, one field position. So I think this was one of the most clean games, and I credit that to Coach Lashley and his preparation, his bye week preparation. And, obviously our trainers as well, getting our guys healthy. Coach Lashley talks about how RJ and Hibner were more healthy than they have been. So huge credit to Steve and Ian, those guys downstairs doing their job.
Dean, we talked about it, as we were just getting ready while Rhett Lashley was doing his press conference. Most people, unless you're an offensive line junkie like our friend Hayden Howerton, wouldn't necessarily know that 3 of the 5 guys for a lot of this football game were not the normal starters. Andrew Chamblee had a baby. Congratulations. He himself did not have the baby, as somebody like to point out on the board. Yeah. But now a father. Congratulations to him. And Zion Nelson was a game time decision today. And when Savion Byrd when PJ Williams gets nicked up, you see Savion Byrd flip over, and Draymond Odoms, the former 5-star, gets in there right away. A lot of changes on that offensive line today, including Logan Parr missing some time.
And I think that's just another reason why Rhett Lashley is saying he's happy with just the win, right? Yeah. He didn't have everybody at his disposal today, but they got the job done. Maybe SMU didn't run the ball as well as they would have liked to, but Kevin's a mobile quarterback. He can extend plays, and he did today. But yeah, this is why you recruit at a high ACC level. So when certain things happen, whether it be injuries or, again, congratulations to Andrew on becoming a father, you've got guys that you believe in that can fill in the gaps. And so they did a nice job today.
I think the run game is something that SMU, probably would have wanted to see a little bit more from. But when you have those issues on the offensive line, changes on the offensive line, it impacts things. I mean, I think Rhett sometimes is really good at, just telling it how it is. And he said, I made a bad play call when we got the safety, and Jermichael Green is tackled in the end zone. It was a stretch play. They saw something, and Syracuse dialed up a great call against it. And Elijah Robinson, the defensive coordinator and defensive line coach there, has his guys usually ready to roll, and they were. And you've got a freshman running back, a freshman left tackle, and things happen. But, I think for this team, the fact that they were able to jump out all over a team, 24-3 at halftime, it's got to feel good. What's the mental piece of that, though? Getting a big lead in conference play, and I don't think the team sleptwalked to this win or whatever, but things happened in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden you kind of feel a little different maybe about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was that the game did get close, 2-3 scores, right?
Sure.
So more close than what you would hoping for.
Yeah.
But the team didn't let go of the rope. And I want to kind of re-emphasize that when you do go through game and you do lose momentum, but you can grab the momentum back and then still keep the win, that's a learning experience, right? On the flip side, we've been on here talking after TCU, after Baylor, where we're up in the fourth quarter and you let go of the rope and you end up losing the game. Well, now you've learned, okay, this team has the ability to hold on to a lead and keep the lead as well and ice a game. As a defense, that's huge, being able to walk off the field with the interception. Club takeaway is open and jumping. Offensively, getting a chance to get a first down, ice the clock, get a knee. Like, those are things and plays that as a player and as a team, you need to know that, okay, we have that ability. Everything doesn't have to come down to an overtime game or a last kick. We can just win the game flat out in regulation. I think that's a huge boost for this team's morale.
With club takeaway open, it's a good reminder that when you go out to the club tonight, make sure you order a bottle of our of Socorro when you're out and about at the club tonight. Really good. Friends of ours, they were out on the boulevard with our boulevard spot. I told Michelle, I was like, hey, if there's any tequila left, just bring it home. And she goes, no, not any left. So our friends Socorro, we appreciate them partnering with us as well. And again, support them. They're an official sponsor of SMU. And look, the support that I think the fan base gave everybody right off the jump, it was really difficult, I think, in the second half to feel a little, like this was a hopping environment. And that's another piece, I think, with this team and kind of any team where you come out and you're like, oh, wow, we just built this big lead and everybody's gone. Yeah. You've experienced that. Yeah. It's different. And it's not an excuse. It's more the reality of it. And I thought the team coming out, the third quarter, the defense really stuck up for this team. Being able to get some of those stops, make some of those key plays, and that kind of allowed the offense that went scoreless, missed field goal in that quarter, to really be able to kind of weather that storm, so to speak, and then you're able to build that 31-3 lead in the second half or in the fourth quarter.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that was a huge kind of. I think something that's been stressing is, as a defense, it's okay to get a 3 and out, right? Like, not everything has to be a 6-play, 7-play, or a 4 and out. And I think that them having opportunities, okay, like the punt team is out, right? We're not sending a field goal block out, like we're sending our punt return unit out. And I think that that's something that this team is like, all right, like we can do this, right? And so, just want to stress that I think this was a big game for momentum, 1-0 in the ACC play. Still tied with, the Florida States, the Miamis, even though, the records are what they are. The conference is the conference. And so as long as we continue to handle business, 1-0 this week, just want to get 1-0 next week, playing Stanford to be 2-0.
Well, and I know the Stanford game is obviously a big one for you every year. I know that as you being an alum from there, but that is next week, 11 a.m., early kick. This game, the taste in a lot of people's mouths is going to be a little negative around the last interception from Kevin Jennings. But the man is not perfect, but what he was 16 straight completions at one point in the game, which is insane. Second best in program history, a career best for Kevin Jennings. He finishes 285 yards, 83% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns. I really felt like outside of that sack to end maybe the first half, was it in the first half or the third quarter? One of the two.
Third quarter,
it was the second drive of the third quarter where he took that bad sack. And then that interception, like, you're looking at one of his better games. But again, the turnover is an issue. It is, somebody that loves to point out on the board. It's 30th and 23 starts for him. So he's good for a turnover a game at this point, but he was really in command of this offense, I felt like, throughout. And that's important when it comes down to, your quarterback going into conference play. That's back-to-back games. I feel like he's played a really, really strong overall game to put SMU in position to win. And let's jump into those players of the game. Presented by our friends at the Thomas Auto Group. Make sure you head up 75 in McKinney to visit any of their Ford dealerships and mention on the Pony Express and get yourself employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles. Had a friend text me about Thomas Auto Group today and getting them hooked up with Brandon Thomas. this week. So they're doing that. Dean, hook us up with your player of the game.
Yeah, you just mentioned him, and yes, the interception was bad, but Kevin Jennings had a phenomenal game. You often talk about, well, it's the turnovers, but he makes up for it with the explosive plays. Well, today there wasn't that 75-yard Romello Brinson touchdown that we're so used to seeing. But other than that one throw, he really didn't put the ball in harm's way a ton, right? A bunch of those bubble screens where he made a bunch of correct decisions on the RPOs and got his receivers in space, threw it to 8 different guys by the end of the first half. And so it's hard to pick one of those receivers when he's thrown it to so many different guys. So I've got to go with Kevin Jennings. I just think they played really good complementary football in the first half. And when you put up 21 points in a quarter, you're playing good football.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I would say Terry Webb, the transfer from Texas State, has done an excellent job in really shoring up this defensive line and commanding it and making plays when the team needs it. Fourth downs, third downs, getting sacks, getting pressure. What you need from a D lineman, he does that at a high level. And I think Terry is and earns my defensive player of the game for this game.
And look, guys, we'll wrap up with this. Getting that opportunity to move to 1-0, and then you get Stanford, which who knows which Stanford team shows up.
Right.
FSU, Miami battling it out in a huge game, especially in terms of the standings for this league. If Florida State grabs that one, this thing just gets boom, popped wide open all of a sudden. It really does. And, Rhett made a good point in the press conference. The goal is to be 1-0 every week. And when you look up, you found a way.
Yeah.
And you find a way and you find a way and you find a way. And that's maybe what's different than this year's team compared to last year's. Like last year's, you guys trailed 5 minutes in ACC play, I think, before the conference championship. I'm not kidding. It's insane. And today, SMU jumped out all over Syracuse, was able to weather that first 5 minutes of the game where you're like, oh boy, like 3 and out, shank punt, defensive, gets a stand. And from there, everybody took off and, like you said, was pulling the rope. That's the hard part about going through the conference play. And, look at Penn State traveling across the country today and losing to UCLA.
Yeah.
And not just, UCLA covering, making it close on a 20.5-point line. UCLA outright win after so many changes, have happened there. And that's the hard part, is trying to find a way to be focused. And, for the first, 2 Power 4 games of this year, SMU just didn't get there, in certain situations. Today they did. They lost their focus a little bit, but they didn't let go of the rope. I think it's important.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that moving forward, this is a great opportunity. You don't necessarily want to look at your schedule outright as a player, as a coach. You want to take it a week by week, and because at the end of the day, if it's November, kind of getting close to Thanksgiving, and you're one of those top 1 to 2 teams, 3 teams, you really have an opportunity to put yourself in that conference championship game. You win the conference championship game, and you control your own destiny. You're going to get into the college football playoffs. And so I think the key thing after the bye week was emphasizing, okay, like this is a new season. We have to take it week by week, day by day, period by period in practice, like minute by minute, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty. But I think that they did that. And I think this is the mentality of Coach Lashley. This is the mentality of Scott Simons. This is the mentality of Coach Woods. And I think that the players are following suit.
And the one thing I'd want to add too is, as much as fans may not want to hear this, with the way the season's unraveled for SMU and their only path to the playoff is a conference championship at this point, the eye test doesn't matter. Winning games matters, right? 100%. And so when you look at the conference, if you look at the standings right now, I mean, the top teams are like Cal, Duke, Georgia Tech, Virginia, and SMU.
Yeah.
And Miami, is undefeated, but they haven't even won a conference game yet. So this league is absolutely wide open. But if Florida State loses, them and Clemson have 2 conference losses.
Yeah.
So are they fully out of the picture at that point? So again, reiterating what Real Ashley said, SMU is 1-0 in conference play.
Yeah, and they do it with a 31-18 win over Syracuse. SMU now 2-0 against Q's, and they keep a 18 game conference winning streak going. And if you watch the full press conference, Rhett Lashley knows the last conference loss, and I do as well. We had a fun time on that evening. So SMU keeping it rolling in conference play, 18 straight wins and 11 straight conference home wins, I believe, as well. I read the post-game notes from our friends at SMU PR, or sports information, whatever you want to call it these days. So, look, Jonathan McGill, great work hosting the show. I've got to be a better producer at times. Dean Ralsky, great work as always. A huge recruiting weekend, though, for SMU. And this show might be ending right now, and you're going to want to go to ontheponyexpress.com, subscribe for just $1 for your first week, get a complimentary year of The Athletic after that, and you get all the recruiting nuggets. SMU basketball going to work, SMU football in prime position now to start adding some recruits. So make sure you head over to the site and check all that out and more as we shut it down here from Ford Stadium, where SMU moves to 1-0 in ACC play and now 3-2 overall. First time you're above 500 since that season opener. So good or against Missouri State. Yeah. So I can't do math very well, but 3-2 overall. That is the main thing. When we shut this one down, the After Stangs Show presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. Make sure you reach out to Mark Villasana, and we will catch you guys next time. A lot more breakdown to come on the site and recruiting thoughts as well. So thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday night. Enjoy FSU Miami, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU-on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.